Think it's important to be a part of the Heart Ball this year. By the time this program's over, 30 persons will have had a stroke. 10 of those will have died. Find out how you can help. Coming up next on Carolina People. Good morning. Welcome to Carolina People. This morning we're at Stevens Floor Covering Center in Myrtle Beach on Highway 17 Bypass. We're focused on the 13th annual American Heart Ball, and we're visiting with one of its dedicated volunteers and former co-chairs, Glinda McIntyre. Good morning,
Hey,
Glinda.
nice to
Thank
see
you so much for
you.
coming in.
Yeah, excited about the ball this year.
Absolutely. It's getting close. We're, what, 2.5 weeks away?
Yeah.
It is getting really close. Tammy Eves was with us on Monday, helping to drive it home, and of course had somebody in yesterday pumping up the March of Dimes. All week it's some fascinating guests, but of course never more exciting than getting past chairs in, Glenda. Thanks so much for taking the time to get in. And it is really getting close, isn't it?
It is, and you're welcome. I'm always glad to come and say a little few my two bits about the Heart Association and everything that I've been involved with over the years with the Heart Association, being on the board and also on past co-chairs and committees.
You know, it's fascinating as I was reviewing some of the stuff to get ready for the interview this morning to see 3 years ago you had sent me some information when we were preparing to get you in on Carolina People. And, of course, back then, you'd already been very involved in the Heart Ball. You had chaired one in Columbia when you and Brian and your boys were living in Columbia. You, at that time, were co-chairing with Evelyn Brandon and Beulah Butler the Heart Ball here. I guess it was our 10th or 11th Heart Ball. And then the next year, you co-chaired it again with Jennifer Wilson and Lane Thompson. And year after year, to see your involvement, it seems to get heavier and heavier. It's amazing. And thankfully not a co-chair this year, I'm sure. It's a $400,000 goal. A lot has to happen to raise $400,000, doesn't it?
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, every year you have to push a little more to get the support from the community and volunteers and everything. So we're working hard.
And volunteers is a critical word. It was a critical part of the night. Obviously, we're all volunteers, all the volunteers that help make it happen year after year. There is a small staff that does it, but without volunteers, it couldn't happen.
All right, with a staff of, 3 or 4 people and a lot of part-time people coming in, plus all the volunteers. It takes, 20 or 30 volunteers to make it go. Right.
Glinda, real quick about yourself. Are you originally from the area?
No, we're originally from Kentucky, my husband and I. And we moved to Atlanta for his training, and then moved to Columbia, and we were in Columbia for 15 years.
Is that
before moving to Myrtle Beach, and we've been here 8 years. Yeah.
So in Atlanta for training, 15 years in Columbia, and 8 years here. That's 23 years, Glinda. That's
a long time.
Yes, but just that amount of time that you've been active in nonprofit groups, whether it was, I think I saw in Columbia, there was a group that's slipping me right now that you were real active in.
The Medical Association Alliance. I was president of that one year and was actively involved in it for many years. So.
What was the alliance there? Was it a group of hospitals, or was it just one hospital?
It's Medical Wives. And they did a charity benefit every year, a fashion show in Columbia that Copeland's store does, and raised a lot of money for charities.
Wow.
Local charities there. So it was a big event.
They would spread their dollars around to different groups.
Yeah.
I saw you later then actually chaired the Heart Ball there in Columbia.
Yes, I did. Yeah. And we had, probably 800 or 900 people.
No way.
Dinner. We had to split it up into 2 different ballrooms. But
really?
It was fun, and we raised a lot of money.
Oh yeah, that must be tough, splitting it up into 2 ballrooms.
Yeah.
There must be a place in Columbia that would seat 1,000 folks.
I would think. I hope by now.
By now, let's hope there is. But at that time, however many years ago, let's see, 8 years you've been here, so 15 years or so ago, there was not.
Right.
Wow. What gave you the bug, Glinda, to get involved with the American Heart Association?
Well, I have several reasons. The main one is a family history of heart disease. My father had a quadruple bypass surgery about 20 years ago, and he's
Really?
doing well.
20 years ago,
Yes.
a quadruple bypass.
Yes.
Wow.
And then my mother died of a stroke about 14 or 15 years ago.
Oh, no,
So,
Glinda.
lots of heart disease on my side of the family. But and then the other reason is my husband does cardiothoracic surgery here, and he's been working for about 20-some years, I guess.
Is that right?
And
Cardiothoracic surgery. What is that exactly? Is that just what it sounds like, related to the heart? Or?
Yeah, he does all the heart bypass surgery, and he will do valve surgery and lung surgery and some vascular surgery.
Mm-hmm. Is that different than a cardiologist, or it's a
Yes.
type of being he was a cardiologist,
No,
right?
no, he's strictly a surgeon.
Surgeon.
The cardiologist takes care of their medically, and if they need medications or angioplasty or procedures like that. But the surgeon actually has to cut them open and do something more invasive. So.
How many cardiothoracic surgeons are in the area, Glinda? Is he the only one, or
In Myrtle Beach, there's 2.
is that right?
Yes.
Wow, that's a big deal.
Yes, it's Dr. Brian and my husband, Dr. McIntyre. So.
Curtis Bryan and Brian McIntyre. Is there any confusion in the office about that? I'm calling for Brian. Which one? Yeah, not probably not too much confusion there. We had Dr. Andy Gresko with us last week. Last Thursday, who is co-chairing the Heart Ball this year with Todd Harms and someone else. And there's just a lot going on when you're putting together an event. Of course, he's aware of $400,000, and particularly with the schedules that he and your husband, whether as a cardiologist or a cardiothoracic surgeon, these folks are really busy all the time.
They are. They don't have a whole lot of time for extracurricular activities,
Right.
I guess, for
Right.
fundraising. But they can make a few phone calls and bump into people at the hospital and
Yes.
make contact that way.
Yes, absolutely. And that probably prompted the bug for you to get involved. Now, you have been on the Waccamaw Division's board, the Horry and Georgetown County board, for a good while.
Yes, I think probably at least 7 of our 8 years here.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you knew that was a group you were going to get involved with as soon as you got here.
Yeah, and that's been. I'm also a former nurse, so I have some intensive care training,
Oh, really?
and so I myself took care of cardiac patients a lot. So.
Oh, great.
You see that
Well,
firsthand
that sure
that way.
helps. Yeah. Now, was that on the surgeon side, or was that?
We
working-
took care of medical and surgical patients. So.
And was that down in Atlanta or in Columbia or all
No,
over?
actually, that was in Kentucky.
Even earlier.
Yeah.
Wow, not to date you there, Glenn,
Right.
but that's so. A few years. Have you maintained? Do you keep up to date with some nursing or?
No, not in a while. But I kind of keep up to date through my husband.
Which I'm sure is you probably hear quite a bit from him. And with he and Dr. Brian here in Horry, is there anyone down in Georgetown County? Any cardiothoracic surgeons, or do all the issues there?
I think the closest hospital that does cardiac surgery would be either Charleston or Duke or
They don't
Florence.
do any in Florence.
Florence.
They do some in
Yes,
Florence.
they do
right.
it in Florence.
How about
There's
Wilmington?
a couple of hospitals
Right.
there that have surgeons. So.
Sure. So these two folks are at a pretty critical need, and there's clearly a big, the Myrtle Beach Area Business Journal this month, which will come out next week, is focused on the heart care industry, partly because it's Heart Month. Obviously, February, the Heart Ball's coming up on the 17th, and we wanted to have the opportunity to really highlight some of the issue. But the heart care industry is a very big and critical industry, not only for the 4 hospitals, but all the practices and for people in general.
It is. Well, heart disease is the #1 killer of all Americans, and
Right.
stroke is number 3. So, and I think the South, it's more prevalent down here because of our diet. All the just the local traditional food in the South is kind of heavy on fat. And
Kentucky's in the
everything.
South.
Yes.
Kind of, yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right. And you said your father had a quadruple bypass 20 years ago. Glinda. I don't think a lot of folks think about the deaths that occur from stroke and the incidents therein. And, of course, the American Heart Association, the dollars raised on Saturday, February 17th, and at the Kingston Plantation, those dollars go not only to fight cardiovascular disease, but also to fight strokes.
It does, and also it goes toward research to develop all these, the defibrillators and the heart valves and the heart-lung machine and the AD and also medications. That they develop new medicines and new therapies for to combat heart disease.
Oh yeah,
and then to educate the public too on how to
education
prevent
is
it.
so critical.
Diet and exercise and everything.
I'm sure if there weren't folks that had bad eating habits, there would still be instances, or bad or smoked or otherwise didn't exercise. There'd still be incidences of high levels of cardiovascular disease and strokes. Your husband would still be in practice. He'd still be very active, albeit I'm sure he'd probably prefer that he wasn't in practice. I mean, at some level, I'm sure he'd be happy if everyone was healthy, but it's not reality. But surely reducing the numbers is critical. He'll still be busy, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, it is. It is critical. And when there's also the hereditary tendency, and some people just have higher cholesterol, which makes the heart disease a lot worse, get it earlier and that kind of thing. So.
Had you had an idea early on in life, Lynn? Of course, if you got involved as a nurse working on the cardiac side, that was before your father's heart attack. Obviously, before your mother died of a stroke. You knew it was in your genes, though. I mean, you knew it was in the family. Is that what prompted you to get to become a nurse working with cardiac patients?
Well, in a way, yeah, it was. I had lots. My great-grandfather died of a heart attack, and my grandmother's mother died of a stroke. So it goes way back.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someone, I think Tammy, who was on Monday, had talked about every 35 seconds someone dies of cardiovascular disease. Every 3 minutes someone dies of a stroke in America. But the fascinating thing was every minute someone is severely debilitated from a stroke. Strokes just have a tremendous impact on folks.
Oh, it does, and the expense too, because you have, there's rehab and then extended care. It has a huge impact on society and the quality of life.
Glinda, if a viewer needed to get off to work now or head out to school or otherwise, what's a good number for someone to call? I know tickets are getting tight, and we sure want to drive home that it's critical to call now to get the tickets for the event. But what's a good number to call?
I would just call the Heart Association main number, 626-3939.
Okay.
And tell them you want some tickets. They're $175 a person, and that's 6 hours of entertainment from 6 to midnight.
And it truly is 6 hours of entertainment. You think, how could they do 6 hours of entertainment? But it is non-stop with tremendous food, obviously a great band, Jumpstart again this year, which is a big crowd pleaser, and a great location, Kingston Plantation.
Yeah, Kingston, it's going to be at the Kensington Ballroom there, and it will start at 6 o'clock with cocktails and hors d'oeuvres, and the silent auction has numerous items that always are great, four-wheelers and golf carts and jewelry and dinner specials, packages, golf and everything you could possibly want.
Absolutely.